I know how to stream, I promise. I had everything muted. I hate my life. I hate my life. Thanks J Rascal for letting me know. Hi. Hi. I just like went through everything. And I'll just say it again. So yeah, welcome to the art crawl. We're going to be talking about art drama. We're going to be talking about artists that I've been into the last couple of weeks. We're going to have feelings. Don't make promises that you can't keep. Alright. With the hula hoops. Bruce, I'm going to play loud music and hula hoop, okay? Did you check out more Kate McDowell? I did. What? What are you doing? I did. I looked at her website. It looks really cool, J Rascal. Thank you for sharing that. Very creepy, in a very creepy and fun way. Well, I guess the benefit of like having all these thunder. You guys are thunder. I forgot. I turned the push-ups off, J Rascal, because my shoulder was killing me. It's still killing me. It's like right. I'll show you where it is. Like this is the tender spot. This is the tender spot right here, but I can feel it all in my neck, and all into my shoulder. And yeah, it is very painful. It's painful. And I don't want to aggravate it. I'm actually only here streaming right now because I took some Motrin right before this. I was like, after dinner, I was just like laying on my bed, like, what is life? Why? So, okay, I guess I should do all the things, right? Okay, so especially before the art starts. So, in a way, I guess, Rapaport, thank you for your consideration of tonight's stream and our art crawl that we're going to do. Let's see, what time is it? 8:16. Let's do that. I'm showing that the sound is working. I'm showing things are working. Okay, let me move this. 8:16. Oh my god, there's thunder. Let me take my slippers off. Let me push this back. 8:16. I want to read what you're saying. Pain meds are handy. They are. I get it. No worries. Okay, no worries. My hair is too long. You guys, I'm getting a haircut next week. Okay, I'm gonna go in a circle. Keep going in circles. Ooh, no, I lost it. It's raining. So, what did everyone have for dinner? You think you're gonna dye your hair for Pride and solstice and then chop it all off? That sounds awesome. Shh, don't tell anybody. That sounds fun. Wait, but don't you have really long hair? You're gonna chop it all off? That's dramatic. Calls the NSA. I had absurdly long hair. Absurd is the proper word. Okay, but like, I'm still gonna have long hair after my haircut. I feel like we made I feel like there was like an unsaid pact between us, people with long hair. But I love it so, hug. It's a hindrance. Okay, alright. Alright, well. You see how it is? You're gonna. I thought we did that. I thought there was an unsaid pact. I think it's been 3 minutes. Also like this song. We're getting hyped. Just dance. Okay. You've never had anyone mention it before? Well, like, I feel like the pact happened like when I was talking about how much of a pain it is to have long hair, and then I remember you saying something like you just want other people with long hair to suffer also. So I thought we were suffering together. Every time a person with gorgeous long hair cuts it super short, I'm like, but no, why have you forsaken us? Totally. Well, okay, like, I'm getting my hair styled, I should say. Like, I'll probably have like 3 or 4 inches from the bottom cut off because it's dead. And it needs to be like taken off. But after that, I'm just gonna get it styled because I have so much of it that like the product I'm using, the quantity of product I'm using is like so, it's costing too much money, and I'm not even using good products. I'm not even using anything good. Okay, what other redemptions? Okay, Aztec Terra. Okay, let's do that. do, do, do. Do, 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 do. All right. I like want it to be steady. I don't want to give you guys like shaky cam. Come on. You can do it. You can do it. Uh-oh. Let me just double check this. I set this up before the stream even started, but now it's being like fussy. Product. The only stuff I use anymore is Dr. Bronner's and really, Aqua? Really? Whoa. Okay. That's really all you use? How do you make that work though? If I only used oil and Dr. Bronner's, my hair would not be good. It would not be a good situation. I use a very basic leave-in conditioner. I use a curl cream, and I use like an oil. I was doing coconut oil for a while. Have you ever tried that, Aqua? You only use cat saliva. That's fucking disgusting. You use apple cider vinegar, you guys? Oh. That's so gross. I'm still thinking about the cat saliva. That's gross, Rapoker. That's disgusting. It's got to be able to rinse clean. Oh, interesting. How does the apple cider feel on your scalp, though? My scalp is, like, all over the place ever since having babies. Like, I swear I go through, like, seasons where my scalp is, like, totally fine, and then it's, like, super not fine. Because there are places where they can only really get rinsed clean, and then I super clean them. Oh, gotcha. Interesting. Oh, my neck is still hurting even. Oh my god. You guys, what is wrong? I'm broken. I hate being in my soon to be in my sunset half of my 30s. What is time? What is time? Counterpoint, have you seen a non-soft cat? Oh, well, okay. Coming in with the evidence. What is this? I have like collage material. Okay, let's cut this in half. Let's pull the top card. Ooh, this one seems dramatic. This card seems very dramatic. Wow. Whew. Wonder what it's about. I wonder what it's about. I wonder. And I wonder who wrote the book of Aztec gods. Okay, let's go to... Okay, let's figure out what this means. Those look like flints, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So let's try the 4 of flints. Let's see. 108. Yep. That is it. Okay, so I'll read a little tiny bit in Spanish to practice, even though I gotta not get discouraged with Spanish, you guys. You have to like not let me get discouraged. I'm getting discouraged. Things take time. Okay, Nahui Tecpato, cuatro de perdonales. En la carta Nahui Tecpato, cuatro de perdonales, Quetzalcoatl Nuestro Señor de la Serpiente emplumada aparece sujetado y listo para la muerte. Esta es una representación particular de una esencia de que Acatl Topiltzin Quetzalcoatl, quien fue el príncipe de Toyán y el gran líder espiritual de antiguo México, gobernó la gran ciudad de Tula como sacerdote rey y compartió su sabiduría profunda con el pueblo. Pero se dejó engañar por Tezcatlipoca, el señor del caos y de la oscuridad. Okay, so that's like the first paragraph. Why do you have our Honorable Supreme Court Justice on your browser? You will see. You will see why. You will see why. Okay, so the four flints. Nahui Tecpatl. Cat's grooming is usually 10 out of 10. That's true. In the card Nahui Tecpatl, four flints, Quetzalcoatl, our lord the plumed serpent, appears, bound and ready for death. This is a depiction of a particular scene in the life of Se Acatl Topiltzin Quetzalcoatl, who was the prince of the Tolan and the greatest spiritual leader of ancient Mexico. He ruled over the great city of Tula as a priest-king and shared his profound wisdom with his people. But he was led astray by Tezcatlipoca, the lord of chaos and darkness. He broke his covenant with the Teteo, the gods, and in sorrow abandoned his city and went to the east, where he immolated himself and was reborn as the morning star. Here he appears bound like a corpse and naked like one newly born, seated upon his bier. His body is painted black, which is the color of priests, and is associated with creativity, birth, and the mysterious force of life, which is born in chaos and darkness. Did you finally put out with Bruce the cat? Wait, what do you mean finally put out with Bruce the cat? Finally put out with Bruce the cat. He wears a glyph which represents a cut conch as a necklace, which symbolizes the blowing wind. Wind is the sign of the ineffable, of power which is invisible, but which can be as powerful as the hurricane or as gentle as the breeze. He wears the conical hat, which is one of his symbols, painted half red like blood and fire, and half with the glyph of water, which is to say the duality, the point at which the two forces of male and female, which form the cosmos meet. Into his headdress are inserted a bone knife and the maguey thorn, which are symbols of self-sacrifice. Oh, he wanted to French kiss. You know what? I didn't put out with Bruce the cat, but I am still letting him do whatever he wants. And I think hopefully Twitty's not. I mean, I guess it's fine if Twitty's watching. I think Bruce is a little bit into like naked ladies maybe, because like when I was getting changed in my jammies last night, he like put his little paws on my belly right when my shirt was off, and I was like, Bruce, unhand me. I did not consent to this, Bruce. But then I just let him because he's a cat. What am I supposed to do? I'm not trying to die and get clawed. So Bruce is taking advantage of me. Okay, anyway, continuing. He is further adorned with 3 paper flags, which are painted with 3 Tecpatl blades. The bodies of the dead were once adorned with paper flags, so they therefore herald his impending death. A 4th knife is tied to the wooden bier upon which he sits and symbolizes his coming act of self-sacrifice. He is painted the moment before he is going to be set on fire and the moment before his death. However, it is said that when the fire was set, all the birds of beautiful and resplendent plumage which live in Mexico emerged from the flames like sparks in the place of ash. And when the fire had died and Quetzalcoatl was no more, he was reborn in the east as the morning star to announce ever after the birth of the sun. In the painting, he appears with the morning star above his bier, and as the sun rises in the east. The 4 of Flints is a card of transformation, of sacrifice and death, which leads to rebirth. It is the moment of silence before the final journey is to take place. It is solitude, meditation, and the final release of sorrow before rebirth. Wait, doxed? What did I do? Naked ladies? Where? Bruce the cat is a Chad. Bruce the cat is at least a little bit of a Chad. I think he's just, he's a very sensitive cat. He's a very, I'll leave this card up while I do my little exercises. Let's do this. Let's do... Get relaxed. We're gonna get relaxed, guys. Get relaxed. You told on Bruce, told us his kinks. It's doxed. Because my shoulders hurt, let me do some special exercises here. Do some yoga moves. Pronouncing Quetzalcoatl wrong. You know what? There's really no way for me to know if it's wrong or not. I'm pronouncing it the way that I think it needs to be pronounced, but I'm not indigenous, so at least not 100% indigenous. I don't know that language. Okay, let me do my favorite. I'm gonna actually rotate here. Oh wait, that time you said Quetzalcoatl. Yeah, it's quite possible that I'm pronouncing it like different ways each time. Quetzalcoatl. I'm not sure, but I'm sure the person who made these cards would know. Oh, this was so good. Quetzalcoatl. Oh, that's the correct pronunciation? Thanks, J Rascal. That's helpful. I'm relaxed. Now I'm relaxed. I'm relaxed, ready to talk about arts. We're all about to be reborn. That's what I've gathered from this card. Coatl. Sounds familiar. Coatl. Quetzalcoatl. That took me a second. I was like, wait, what? Okay, manage requests. Mark is complete. Did it. Doing the things. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So the last couple of weeks, this is the stuff that I've noticed either like on my Instagram, out in the world, whatever's that I just felt like talking about. So we're going to start with some news, and then we're going to watch some Art 21, and we're going to have a good time. So one of the first things that I noticed, this is about 2 weeks old, but I noticed I wanted to talk about was the situation with Clarence Thomas, our wonderful Supreme Court Justice. Today on... is that technically what this is? Mermaid Reacts? I don't know. I'm a professional streamer. I know things are called things. So yeah, let's let me do this first. Make that go away. Let me move this up a little bit, and then let's watch this little snippet. So this is what I heard, and then we'll dig into it a little bit more. That's what the kids are honorable.
Billionaire Harlan Crow, such as flights in private jets, trips on yachts, Clarence Thomas violated the law and just like basic ethics by not disclosing years and years of lavish gifts by conservative mega donor and billionaire Harlan Crow, such as flights in private jets, trips on yachts, and more vacations worth up to $500,000. They have been best of friends for 20 years, notably becoming friends after Thomas was sworn in as a justice. One of the gifts, which may have been disclosed but is just like a lot nonetheless, is a 7-foot-tall, 1,800-pound bronze sculpture of a nun that once taught Thomas in 8th grade. It should also be noted that Harlan Crow has a fairly interesting collection of his own, including but not limited to a signed copy of Mein Kampf, watercolors by Hitler himself, and a set of swastika emblazoned table linens. He also has a garden of evil with monuments of 20th century dictators, including Mussolini, Stalin, among many others. Crow insists, of course, that it's just because he just really hates communism and fascism. But then, what about that 2015 fundraiser on the eve of Yom Kippur? And why do you have slavery stuff? And what about this death mask of Sitting Bull, the Lakota leader who was shot in the head after leading resistance against the U.S. government? And why is that death mask decorating a cigar box? Needless to say, I have more than a few questions, and I'd love to hear yours. It was recently revealed that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas violated the law and just like basic ethics by not disclosing years and years of lavish
Okay,
gifts
so
by conservative mega donor.
I saw this, right? And yeah, a death card. So I wanted to read more about this. I was like, what is going on here? Also, Rapper, I turned it up all the way. Hopefully that's loud enough. If not, I have one more fix. So when we get to the next video, yeah, just let me know if it's not loud enough. So I saw this snippet by this amazing, I think she's like an art historian, Interstellar Isabella. And so I was like, let me look into this. So I wanted to read more about this. So this is an article on Hyperallergic, and I like Hyperallergic. They're a pretty good art news source. They're pretty unbiased, and they kind of get to the root of things. So a ProPublica reports that among the luxury gifts and trips paid for by real estate developer Harlan Crow were several objects of cultural significance. So Justice Clarence Thomas accepted undisclosed art gifts from conservative donor. I wish they would just say from donor. This is a problem for all Americans. Oh, you think so? Like, just you think it shouldn't be clear? It shouldn't be specified that it's a conservative donor? I feel like it's relevant, though, don't you think? So it says, news broke this week that United States Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has received a long list of undisclosed gifts and trips from a prominent Republican donor, including artworks and objects of cultural significance. According to the reporting by ProPublica, Thomas has accepted gifts or donations on behalf from his real estate developer and leading conservative donor Harlan Crow for the last 2 decades. Today, Thomas said in a statement sent to CNN that colleagues and others in the judiciary advised that reporting these gifts was unnecessary, adding that guidelines for judges on personal trips and presents were recently changed. And so, like, this last sentence, like, I just want to say, like, okay, if everything has been changed, right, then it seems kind of like, it seems a little bit that, like, now that the ruling has changed, like, there's a little bit of, like, going back and, like, looking at, like, all of the things that were done that were potentially nefarious, right? It is not relevant to the issue at hand, which is it's illegal and immoral and unethical for anyone on a bench to accept contributions, donations, money, and or bribes of any kind, period. Gotcha. Who the donor is or why is irrelevant. Interesting. But I think yeah, they're definitely like using who the person is as leverage for the story, right? Because it makes it more exciting. More people are going to click on it. It's going to attract more like left-wing liberals. So that's, that's they're doing the journalism thing. Rant. Fucking high treason. Among the gifts allegedly donated to or on behalf of Thomas include a $19,000 Bible that belonged to Frederick Douglass, Montreal-based illustrator Sheriff Tarabay's painting of the Justice and his wife Virginia Ginny Thomas, recently scrutinized over connections to the January 6th insurrection, and $105,000 to Yale Law School for the Justice Thomas Portrait Fund, according to tax filings reviewed by ProPublica. The Justice Thomas Portrait Fund. That's interesting. What could that be for? I would also accept eating him, by the way. Yes, we could. We need to eat the rich. But the strangest is arguably the 7-foot-tall, 1,800-pound bronze of Sister Mary Virgilius Reedy, a nun who taught Thomas in 8th grade, which was apparently not a gift to Thomas directly, but rather dedicated on his behalf to New Jersey's Maryrest Cemetery. The granite base is reportedly inscribed with a phrase spoken by Sister Virgilius to Thomas: "We lived with you, and you knew we loved you." I don't know why, but this quote is really mysterious to me. We lived with you, and you knew we loved you. There's so much that my mind imagines when reading a quote like that. Is it a loving quote? It doesn't feel loving. It doesn't feel, there's a sense of knowing, of purpose, a knowing of the point of the relationship. It's strange. It's a strange quote to me. And you knew we loved you. You knew. Not I loved you, not you loved us, not we loved each other. You knew we loved you. Interesting. Per ProPublica, Thomas and Crow flew on Crow's jet to the cemetery for the dedication ceremony on the weekend of October 16, 2021. This extraordinary statue is dedicated to you, sisters, Thomas said, addressing the crowd and thanking the donors, Crow and his wife, for paying for it. Interesting. You ever watch a documentary about a cult from the 18th or 18th century, race or religion, money, power based? A lot of those cults, a bunch of new ones, are totally right. No, I haven't, Aqua. You should definitely drop some cult information and or cult documentaries and recommendations into the Discord, because that sounds fun. I definitely went on a cult binge of American cults. I mean the Freemasons or the KKK. I have not watched too much about the KKK because it makes me angry. And actually, that's not true. I would say when I took a film class in art school for one semester, they talk about that first film that was made by the KKK. And then after that, I was like, why are we talking about this? I'm saying this dude and their friends into all sorts of stuff like that, secret societies and the like. Interesting. Yeah, it's definitely weird. It's weird. These expensive gifts have raised alarms for legal ethicists, conduct experts, and other politicians who allege Thomas may have violated principles designed to keep justices from becoming politically corrupt. Yeah, I mean, look, if you're a justice and you're taking a private plane with your bestie to a ceremony for a statue of a nun that was your favorite nun when you were 8 years old or however old you were, and your bestie bought the statue for you, you guys have a close relationship. That is you can't argue that you don't. That's you don't do stuff like that for people who are just your acquaintances. That's not the case. On Twitter, U.S. Senator for Connecticut and Democratic Party member Chris Murphy wrote that this was the clearest, most brazen violation of judicial ethics you can imagine. About the gifts and trip, Crow told ProPublica that he has never asked about a pending or lower court case and is unaware of his friends trying to lobby the Supreme Court justice. Sure, I definitely believe that that's not a lie. He maintains that the gifts are just another hospitable gesture that honors Thomas. But But why do people make hospitable gestures? You know what I mean? Like, why do they do them? Why? Is it just because they're bored? They're like, you know what? I hear that guy's pretty cool. I'm just going to do that. Like, there's usually something involved in a relationship that would warrant such kind of hospitable gestures. On a number of occasions, we have made contributions to projects celebrating the life and legacy of Justice Thomas, just as we have done with other great leaders and historically significant figures, said Crow. So I guess that's a statement, right? If we're going to do What's Up with Justice Thomas, we should look at the good stuff. Should we? We can look at the good stuff. I'm only talking about this because it relates to art. So if there's other, this is almost a red herring. For some reason, I forget the context of red herring. A red herring. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, so I'm talking about it because of the art context. I mean, it's definitely possible that like there's a lot of good stuff about him. But anyway, I did some more reading about it. This is I read this Guardian article and I just thought some of the quotes were funny. So I wanted to share with you. And this is not to say, like, I'm not trying to make it seem that like, look, I don't pay 100% attention to like all like of the life of an entire person, like as it relates to these topics that I'm talking about. I'm just interested in the art aspect and how art plays a role in these political situations. Maybe they are gay marriage. Oh, a distraction away from his ties to the January 6th fun times at the Capitol. Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a real possibility. I mean, and it would make sense. It would make sense that was the case. So anyway, here's another article on The Guardian. Clarence Thomas defends himself after undisclosed gifts revelation. I just wanted to hear this. Like, what is the defense here? The U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas said on Friday that he was advised the personal hospitality extended to him for more than 25 years by the Republican mega donor Harlan Crow, detailed an explosive report by ProPublica, did not have to be reported under ethics rules. Okay, so he's saying here that, like, I follow the rules, you guys. Also, I think maybe Justice Thomas didn't listen to that nun. I'm almost positive they would have wanted him to, like, give that money to the poor rather than to make a statue of her. Nuns are evil. Like, I don't know if they would have wanted him to give that to the poor. All the nuns I know were like very, very, very mean. As a Catholic, as a confirmed Catholic who does not practice, that feels very in line with nun stuff. I have endeavored to follow that counsel throughout my tenure, Thomas said in rare statement, and have always sought to comply with the disclosed guidelines. Like, I always love that when people do something unethical, they immediately go to like, well, it was technically not against the law, so I'm not in trouble. Like, as if the law and guidelines are completely in line with what is ethical at any given point. The statement did little to dampen controversy surrounding the 74-year-old conservative or lessen fire from the political left. Thomas is the longest-serving current justice, nominated by George H.W. Bush in 1991. On Thursday, ProPublica reported that he has long accepted trips from the Crow, including travel on private jets and yachts, and stays at exclusive resorts. I am on that time. You are a nun, actually. Rappaport is actually a nun. That's a true statement. I can confirm that. Justin Elliott, one of the report authors, said, "This is the text of the law ethics lawyers told us he violated. Gifts such as private jet travel need to be reported unless they are food, lodging, or entertainment received as personal hospitality." And, like, I just love how, like, there's this umbrella phrase of, like, personal hospitality. Like, that could mean so many things. Like, is a prostitute personal hospitality? I feel like that could qualify. So yeah, this is in the statute itself and predates the recent filing guidance update. That update went into effect on March 14th. In a subsequent letter to Sheldon Whitehouse, a Democratic senator from Rhode Island, Rosalind Moskop, director of the Administrative Office of the United States Court, said gifts not covered by the reporting exemption included gifts such as transportations that substitutes for commercial transportation. Okay, so like you don't have to, so if like you could have taken a bus there, but like your friend drove you on his private jet instead, that's like the same thing, I guess is what they're saying. Thomas said, early in my tenure at the court, I sought guidance from my colleagues and others in the judiciary and was advised that this sort of personal hospitality from close personal friends who did not have business before the court were not reportable. He added, it is of course my intent to follow this guidance in the future. Supreme Court justices, however, largely sit above federal ethics regulations, essentially governing themselves. And that's the key here, right? Like they're the ones sort of making the rules for themselves. So there is kind of like this is a big gray area. Gee, it's almost as if it's written that way on purpose. Anyway, let's keep going because there's a funny quote in here. Thomas also said Harlan and Kathy Crow were amongst his dearest friends and had joined him and his own wife, the right-wing activist Ginny Thomas, on a number of family trips. There's nothing suspicious about that at all. In 2004, 13 years into Thomas's time on the court, the Los Angeles Times reported gifts from Crow, including a Bible once owned by, Frederick Douglass. We saw that in the same paper's words this week. Thomas stopped disclosing gifts. The Washington Post noted that Thomas has disclosed just 2 gifts since 2004. ProPublica noted that Crow's generosity to Thomas was reported in 2011 by the New York Times and Politico. The latter, it said, revealed that Crow had given $500,000 to a Tea Party group founded by Ginny Thomas, which also paid her a $120,000 salary. That's cool. That's really awesome. That's just what dear friends do. Dear friends pay you $120,000 to, join a Tea Party foundation or found a Tea Party group. ProPublica reported the existence of a painting hung at Crow's Resort in New York State and showing Thomas smoking hung at Crow's Resort in New York State and showing Thomas smoking a cigar in company, including Leonard Leo, head of the Federalist Society, which played a major role in tilting the Supreme Court right with 3 confirmations under Donald Trump. This is fascinating to me. So there's a painting hung at Crow's Resort showing Thomas smoking a cigar with this guy, Leonard Leo. So interesting. So, like, when we talk about, like, how art and power are related to each other and the legacy of power, right? Because art is often a visual legacy of power. It's a very, like, especially portraiture. Portraiture is like something that nobles historically over time have always had portraits of them painted in a fashion that makes them seem like the most powerful in any given time period. So it's so interesting to me that there's a painting that in Crow's Resort of Thomas and this other guy. So Crow said he and his wife have been friends with the Thomases since 1996, giving gifts no different from the hospitality we've extended to many of our other dear friends. He also, first of all, like, must be nice. Let me just take a moment to just say it must be nice to just have the means to give very amazing gifts like this. He also claimed we have never asked about a pending or lower court case, and Justice Thomas has never discussed one, and we have never sought to influence Justice Thomas on any legal or political issue. More generally, I am unaware of any of our friends ever lobbying or seeking to influence Justice Thomas on any case, and I would never invite anyone who I believe had any intention of doing that. And this is really significant, right? Like, the context of this, because, like, the wording is very careful. Like, yes, it may be, like, let's just, for devil's advocate, say, like, yes, maybe this is true. Like, never was there a conversation about any particular court case. But let's just say that, like, what if Thomas made a decision and then suddenly a gift was given, right? And then say he made another decision where a gift was not given after that. Like, there's ways to influence somebody's decisions without even ever having a conversation about it. So I don't know if I even believe that, like, that matters. Accountable U.S. advocacy, an an advocacy group, contended Thomas was wrong to say Crow did not have business before the court. It said for 3 decades, Crow has served on the board of trustees for the American Institute, which has published and taken credit for multiple amicus briefs filed with the Supreme Court by the group's president and scholars. Crow joined the AEI in 1996, the same year he became friends with Thomas. Kyle Herring, president of the Accountable.us, said, "First, Justice Thomas hid decades of lavish gifts and travel funded by Harlan Crow, but now he's outright lying when he says this major conservative donor had no interest in the work of the Supreme Court. The truth is clear. This is an unprecedented story of corruption at the highest of levels, and those involved must be held accountable." Thomas is a senior conservative of 6 on the 9-member court, his influence growing through a series of controversial conservative rulings, not least the removal of the right to abortion in the Dobbs versus Jackson last year, and a concurring opinion in Dobbs. Thomas suggested similar rights, same-sex marriage, gay sex, and contraception access should be reviewed. He did not mention interracial marriage. Thomas is black and his wife is white. And I think we're getting closer to the quote that I wanted to read you guys. Let's see. The ProPublica report prompted Senate Democrats to call for an investigation. And some on the left renewed calls for impeachment. Justice Senate Judges Committee will act. And then, yes, AOC says that Thomas must be impeached as the court was becoming known for rank corruption, erosion of democracy, and stripping of human rights, which is, fairly accurate, I would say. Hey, Twitty, how's it going? Twitty, thank you for the resub. Brief break to talk to Twitty for 1 second. Bruce is doing well. He's doing well. He's around the house somewhere. He was in the studio about 30 minutes ago, but now I think I'm too loud for him. Almost 3 years? What? I know, it's been a long time. Let's see. Where is that quote that I like? Where is it? Oh, okay, here we go. Impeachment is highly unlikely, even given other calls regarding Ginny Thomas's effort in support of Trump's attempt to overturn the 2020 election and Clarence Thomas's failure to recuse himself from a related case. Like Crow, Ginny Thomas has claimed not to talk to her husband about cases or politics. What the fuck, you guys? You're married. You talk about everything. I'm glad my son is wandering. Like how? Ginny Thomas, how can you think people are this stupid? Like, that's what I want to know. Okay, maybe, again, playing devil's advocate here. Maybe Ginny Thomas, has never outright talked about a particular case. But you guys are fucking married, okay? Like, what the hell? They absolutely do talk about cases and politics. Yes, they do. They definitely do. Oh, Bruce wants to go to second base. Bruce is hitting on me, Twitty. I took my shirt off and I was getting changed my jammies to put his little paws on me. I did not consent. Oh, God. Okay. So, anyway, writing for Slate, the ProPublica report, Dahlia Lithwick and Mark Joseph Stern said, Clarence Thomas broke the law and it isn't particularly close. Thomas broke a law which contains serious civil penalties, though the bogus technicality on which he relies in addition to political clout will be more than enough to ensure that he faces any actual legal consequences. Okay, so I wanted to just read all of that because I wanted to really have like a good understanding of like what is actually going on here. Skinship. And just to think about it, how does art, what role does art play in like these sort of ethical decisions that these like major donors are making, and like in art, are super rich people just buying each other art gifts all the time? Is that like how it works? Like that's everyone's just best friends. Like once you're rich, you're just a best friend and everything is just a hospitality gift. Like, I'm sorry, I don't believe that at all. I don't believe that at all. I don't believe super rich people are generous without intentions or requirements and or wishes for themselves. I don't see a bunch of billionaires selflessly donating art, selflessly collecting art. I don't know. He tried to French kiss Mermaid after Mermaid aroused him with petting. He did. He really did. Yeah, no. Okay, so Bruce came up onto the bed and it was like purring a lot at me, so I like patted his little head, but just like a little bit, and he got closer to me like here's the microphone, and he kept getting closer and he was getting closer, and then he put his nose on mine like this, and then he starts to try to lick me. And then I like backed up because I was like, I'm not ready to French kiss a cat. And then he got mad and he was like, he yelled at me. I'm pretty sure that's how it's worked since Check's Watch forever. He drools too. See, like, I'm not ready to swap spit with a cat. Even though it's Twitty's cat, and Twitty is amazing, and I love Twitty. They're great. I don't know if I can make out with the cat. When he's happy. Okay, good. So yeah, I mean, I just think like it's just all seems very nefarious, and it doesn't seem like off base with like some of the artists that we've talked about and how awful they are and the company that they keep. It just seems pretty on par with like art world's shenanigans. And I wanted to know more. I wanted to know more about these things. So let me watch this one more time.
Slavery stuff. And what about this death mask of Sitting Bull, the Lakota leader who was shot in the head after leading resistance against the U.S. government? And why is that death mask decorating a cigar box? Needless to say, I have more than a few questions, and I'd love to hear yours. It was recently revealed that Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas violated the law and just like basic ethics by not disclosing years and years of lavish gifts by conservative mega donor and
Okay, so it looks like the second part of that is that really that Crow collects really evil art. And I actually don't want to spend any time really talking about Crow's art collection because I'm one of these people that just thinks that like when you talk about something that's like really shitty, you're sometimes just perpetuating it. Like it's really, really disgusting that Crow collects the art that he collects, and he should not be collecting it. Like there are certain items that are created that need to just be destroyed, in my opinion. And just like that, basic ethics, clap, clap. Okay, great. So that was like one sort of, that was one kind of a fun thing that happened that I saw and I just wanted to learn more about and talk about because, you know, you see these snippets and it's just nice again to just read and understand. Also, exactly. Also with a name like Crow, with a name, not sus at all. Not sus at all. I don't know. I just don't understand. Like, why would you want a signed copy of Mein Kampf? Like, why would you want that? And I don't know. Are there any like historians in the chat? Like, I've never understood this like historian, like angle where it's like, oh, I just want a piece of history. Like, do you though? Do you? You wouldn't. So, in other art drama that I noticed in the last 2 weeks was this situation. So let's watch this. We're moving right along here.
His royal carriage. But the international dispute over the headdress of Moctezuma. How it is currently on display at the museum in Vienna, Austria, and how they got it is a little shady, but they allow Mexican citizens to view it for free. The Mexican government asked for it back many times, and Austria declined, saying it is too fragile to send back. It is a very nuanced argument. There's lots of arguments on both sides, but did you know that Mexico actually has some leverage in this argument? It goes back to this guy when Mexican conservatives asked the Austrian government to come in and establish the Second Empire of Mexico, making him Maximilian I, the Emperor of Mexico. This Austrian Empire only lasted 3 years. The story is messy, complicated, but he ended up being executed. But guess what was left behind of this Austrian Empire? His royal carriage. The Austrian government has felt that it was of Austrian royalty and it should be displayed in Austria, and they have asked for it back. But Mexico declined, and for a better reason. Maximilian was an emperor of Mexico, meaning that carriage was used by Mexican royalty, so it belongs in Mexico. And they said no. It is on display at El Castillo de Chapultepec in Mexico City, where the emperor and his wife actually resided. Where they also have on display this fake Moctezuma headdress because the real one is in Austria. Let me know what you guys think about this ongoing beef in the comments. I'm sure most of us are familiar with the international dispute over the headdress of
promise. So I thought this was really interesting. I also think that the comments here are pretty funny. I feel like there was a here's a comment I loved. Maximilian seemed to deeply love and care about Mexico. He's trying to conquer it. He's trying to conquer it and care about Mexico. From what I've read, Mexico would have had a bright future under him, wanting to implement free German-style schools, enshrining freedoms of speech, workers' rights, and equality. Okay, I'm not even... This is why you don't read the comments, but I saw that. It was cracking me up, because, he's trying to conquer Mexico. Alright, he's not here on, a peaceful mission. But again, I wanted to know more. So... I pulled up this article. Sure, I'll do that. Mexico continues to request its ancient Aztec headdress from Austria. This year marks the 500th anniversary of the Spanish conquest of the Aztec Empire. Wait, what's the date here? 2021. Okay, so it's a couple years old. In 1521, in remembrance of the event, Mexico has made multiple requests to retrieve a priceless Aztec headdress from Austria's Museum of Ethnology, but to no avail. According to the German news site DPA, the State Secretariat for Culture in Vienna denied the request, stating that the considerable risk of possible damage during transport. The elaborate feather headdress is believed by Mexican scholars to have been worn by the Aztec Emperor Montezuma II in 1519, the year the Spanish first made contact with the native people. However, according to Welt Museum Wine, the feather crown Moctezuma's was not worn by the emperor, but rather a priest. But also, how would they know that though? Factually. How the ancient relic made its way thousands of miles to mainland Europe is still unclear, but Blanca Barragan Moctezuma, a descendant of Montezuma II, plans to file a lawsuit against Austria to take back a valuable piece of her nation's history. A repatriation effort that dates back decades, as Mexico has been insisting on bringing back the feathered headdress since 1991. Having become a major tourist attraction for the museum, Mexican President Andrés Manuel López Obrador claimed that Austria has wrongfully reappropriated the relic for their own gains. No solution has been made to resolve the matter. Wait, now we're reacting to comments? Uh-oh. No, that was just one comment. We're not reacting to comments. See, Twitty. Colonization. Whee! So either you think it belongs to Mexico or not. If you do, then it's their call to transport it. If you don't, then just say, then F and say, exactly, Aqua. Thievery! Okay, anyway, here's a short video about it. So I thought we could watch this. Let me just make sure this is turned up. Let me make sure my life is, I'm gonna make sure this is.
La couronne de Moctezuma, c'est un objet vraiment spectaculaire par la beauté des plumes utilisées, par la beauté du travail, par sa dimension, puisque le diamètre est d'1,75 m et la hauteur est d'1,10 m. Cette couronne, on suppose qu'elle a appartenu à l'empereur aztèque Moctezuma II. Elle aurait été offerte par Moctezuma II lui-même au conquistador espagnol Hernán Cortés. C'est lui qui l'aurait rapportée en Europe au XVIe siècle. Cette couronne est si importante d'ailleurs que depuis quelques années, le Mexique réclame le retour en fait de la couronne de Moctezuma pour pouvoir être exposée dans un musée de Mexico.
Yeah, so it's this is like an ultra rare item. But sure, it's too fragile to transport. And sure, it was given as a gift, right? Appropriation, but call it education. I would respect Biden more if he wore something like that to state. Yes. Why? But like also like why? Like why have we stopped like making really amazing? Well, you know, maybe I guess because it's gaudy, right? Like also though, like if I feel like an American wore something like that, it would be like outrageous, right? I brought a computer in a backpack on a plane. There are ways to protect stuff for travel. Look, it doesn't make sense, okay? This is not a good argument that you can't, like, look, it's 2023, okay? We have like cameras that can level themselves by you holding them. Put it carefully in a big container that can level itself in an airplane. Like, it is not. This is a stupid excuse. It's stupid. Also, it's the only pre-Columbian headdress that exists. It's the only one. So of course Austria's going to keep it. You know how much money they make per year? I want to see how much revenue they make per year from this. That's what I want to see. I want to know. Anyway, Mexican activists hack Viennese museum's audio guide in protest over its ownership of the Montezuma headdress. 2 Mexican activists infiltrated the Welt Museum in Vienna last week. Wait, when is this? This was last year, the 24th of February. Swapping its audio guides for their own hacked versions to protest the history and ownership of the headdress of Montezuma. In the modified audio guide, Joko no Schlettel Gamora, a descendant of the Aztecs who has repeatedly called for the crown to be returned to Mexico, describes the artifact's arrival in Vienna as a consequence of the European looting of the historical heritage that is exhibited in various museums on that continent, such as Austria, France, Spain, England, and Germany. There you have it. I'm going to go ahead and say it. It doesn't even qualify as an excuse. It really doesn't. It really doesn't. If it's something that your mom would have just snorted and said, try again, it doesn't even count. He adds that Copili Quetzali, the Aztec name for the headdress, is a precious royal crown, not a plume. It means spiritual power. It is like the Pope's mitre. The history written by Hernan Cortez speaks of an emperor who prostrated himself at his feet, but the truth is that it was an invasion that exterminated an entire civilization. Sorry, I'm yelling. I'm yelling now. It was an extermination. It was. Sebastian Arachedera, a documentary maker, and Yosu Arangueña, a publicist, managed to sneak their audio guides into the Viennese museum by swapping headsets in the toilets over a period of a few days. You guys, this is what I love about human beings. Like, this shit is like so amazing. I just love it. I love it. Admission to the museum is free for Mexicans as a courtesy, so they got in for fucking free. They got it for free. Arangueña tells El Confidencial newspaper, since we couldn't steal the audio guides because that's where we would get into a problem with the police, we brought our own audio guides. We bought them and we have given them to the museum. Requests to return the crown, said to have been worn by the Emperor Montezuma, have so far been turned down over claims that the delicate piece would not withstand vibrations of the transfer of the trip and would be destroyed. A spokeswoman for Welt Museum says, the Institut Nacional de Antropología de Historia in Mexico, together with the Welt Museum Vine, has conducted rigorous research into the conservation status and history of the headdress. One of the main results of the Mexican-Austrian research is that the object cannot be moved, as transporting it would cause massive damage. We are keeping up with the latest technological developments, but at this time, technology does not offer a way to transport the feather headdress. However, Gamora's recording concludes with him saying, "We do not believe in the version, nor in the supposed truths and facts of so many years." How the ancient relic made its way thousands of miles to mainland Europe is still unclear. Many historians assume that it was a gift from Montezuma himself to the Spanish conqueror Hernan Cortez, who later sent it to Emperor Charles I of the Habsburg House. The Weltmuseum spokeswoman says it welcomes the artistic intervention as an interesting contribution to the current discussion about post-colonial heritage and ethnographic museums, adding that there is no request for the return of the headdress to Mexico. So, like, there's clearly a disconnect here. So the representative from the museum says there's been no request from Mexico, but then there's so much evidence to the contrary, right? So, like, clearly people are not talking to each other. They're just not speaking to each other. Let me zoom in on this headdress. Let's take a look at it. Okay. Look, I'm not a jewelry maker. I don't make jewelry. So I don't know how legitimate it is that it's not transportable, but I just don't believe that. I don't know. I just really don't believe it. It seems like a super rare item. You know, it seems like a rare item that Austria does not want to give up. That's what it seems like to me. That's my personal thought on it. But I thought it was worth talking about. It just is interesting. Colonization. Let's move on. So there was a new episode of Art 21 that came out. I haven't watched the whole thing, but I picked a couple of artists I like. We're going to listen to Amy Sherald, who did this portrait of Michelle Obama. We're going to listen to it. Even if it did get damaged, it's not theirs to begin with. And it shouldn't be their decision. Right? Like, whose decision is it? It should be Mexico's decision. It's Mexico's item. It's the only pre-Columbian item, like, of this kind that exists. It's from Mexico. So if I go to Spain and hold a gun to the leader's head and say, give me Spain and you can live, and they say, okay, you can have Spain, and then I say, okay, but I also want your desk, and they give it to me, and then they arrest me, I can keep the desk because it was a gift. Totally aqua. That's how it works. Just show up to other countries because you think you have better technology to kill more people. And then say, can I have this toaster? And when they say yes, even if you fail in your colonization, you get to keep the toaster. This is absurd. It's absurd. Just give it back. Here's how I feel. If Mexico wants to take the risk and move it so they can have it back, then they should take the risk. It's their right to do. It's their right to take the risk. Do it. Okay. We have a few really good videos to watch about artists, and we're gonna watch them. Let me actually get rid of these two things though really quick, because nothing bothers me more when there's like those little things at the bottom. England puts flag in India. Indian. You can't claim India. There's 10 million of us. England. Do you have a flag? No flag, no country. Those are the rules we just made up. Someone plan a heist. Right? Someone plan a goddamn heist. And then let me live stream it. Let me live stream the heist of the heist of the crown of Montezuma. Please. Please. Okay. Da 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 da. Bring this down a little bit. Bring this up. The most super delicate heist ever. Definitely. That'd be the most amazing heist. The most amazing.
I really have this deep belief that images can change the world. It's not that I started making work with that belief, but it's what I've come to know. It's a beautiful way to tell a story. I consider myself an American realist. For me, it means just recognizing my Americanness first and just wanting the work to join a greater ongoing conversation. Edward Hopper or Andy Wyeth, they're telling these American stories, and I'm also telling American stories.
Miss Amy Sherald, portrait artist.
Last week, Amy Sherald went from being a virtual unknown to one of the most talked about artists in the world. On Monday, her painting of Michelle Obama was
Hopper is
unveiled
amazing.
alongside
Hopper
Kehinde
is
Wiley's
incredible.
portrait of President Barack Obama. Both Sherald and Wiley were interviewed and chosen for the job by the Obamas themselves.
I wanted to paint a quiet and powerful portrait of her that offered the viewer a different kind of moment and make it truly about her and not about the First Lady title. And making everyone feel the way that she makes people feel in person, which is like,
I just want to comment that I feel like her painting is really successful in accomplishing that, because I remember looking at this painting, and I've actually seen this painting in person. It's an incredible painting, and I think that it really does achieve that goal of capturing who she is and not just this person, like as the First Lady. It's an excellent painting.
it's like she's very relatable. When they look at Michelle, they can see themselves. By being herself, she gives us permission to be our full selves.
Pausing for that sentiment for 1 second, like by her being herself, she allows other to be themselves. And I think that's a concept that really is like undervalued these days. I think there is a lot of value in like the idea that when you are yourself fully and completely, you are then giving someone else permission to be themselves. And while I think this is something that Michelle Obama does embody and does talk about and does inspire other people to do, I also think that that's sort of a sentiment that applies to many people. I think anytime somebody who maybe is feeling less self-assured sees somebody who like really embodies who they are, really loves who they are, and is not ashamed of who they are, they really give that person, they remind that person that they have their own agency to be whoever it is that they want to be. And I think that's just a beautiful sentiment that I just wanted to talk about, because I think that while it applies for Michelle Obama, I think it also applies to just anybody. I think anytime any person steps into themselves, it allows somebody else to step into themselves as well.
It just so happens that painting Black people is kind of political. But these figures hanging on museum walls, it's more than just that. You know, it's more than just the corrective narrative. It's got to be about humanity first, and then everything else has to follow. The decision to paint the skin in gray, when I first started making this work, I think I had anxiety about the work being marginalized and the conversation solely being about identity. This was something that I wasn't trying to escape necessarily, but I wanted the work to be bigger than that. I started to think of it as a way to allow the viewer to have an experience that was not about race first. These paintings for me are really about our interior lives.
Yeah, finding your community.
Well, this is Amy. This is not a large one, but that's Amy, and I'm trying to think of her age at the time. But
6 or
Yeah,
7,
she's
maybe
old.
2nd grade. And then this is all my siblings.
yeah, Amy was the bossy one.
That's funny.
She wanted to be an artist, and of course I would always say, I don't want a starving artist. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, anything better than an artist. Do your art on the side. But she was determined to be an artist.
Yeah, and this is my mom.
Nobody ever
She
wants an
was
artist.
19.
High school.
Having these here for me was the opportunity to understand my history and where I come from. And after using the grayscale painting, I really started to think about these images that I had growing up. I was always drawn to the photograph of my grandmother, Jewel. I just think photographs from this time, the eyes really tell a story. Like, you can really feel who they were in that moment. And I think that's what really draws me to black and white photography, is because it's so special and saturated with so much emotional energy. Looking at her picture, I saw a woman
Saturated with so much emotional energy. The black and white photo. I think that's correct. You know, there is something about a black and white photo that captures something energetically that I think color photos just don't do. You realize how similar you are to other people, even if you're not surrounded by similar people. Definitely.
woman who was dignified, who represented herself in a way that influenced how I wanted to be represented in the world as well. I don't think I realized that I was missing seeing imagery of myself in art history. It wasn't until I came across a painting that actually had a person of color in it, a black person, that I realized that I had never seen that before.
Gotta stop here for a second because I will never get over that. Like, I'm still super, super, super bitter about visiting so many museums as a child and really believing wholeheartedly, because as a child you believe that things are based on merit because that's what you're taught. You know, everything is very merit based as a kid. At least it was for me. And just not seeing yourself represented. It was so confusing to step into a fine art space and an art school and have all of these teachers and your peers requesting you to contextualize your life in terms of all these other people, all these other white people who have varying privileges, sure, but in reality don't have a direct contact with what your life experience is like. That's just, it's truly bizarre. It's a truly bizarre thing.
As a 6th grader, my first time going to a museum, when I saw this painting by Bo Bartlett, I was shocked that I was looking at a figure of a black man. He was standing in front of a house. He had on a belt that had like some handyman stuff. I just remember standing there for a few minutes, and like I realized when I saw that work that I wanted to make paintings like that. I was able to see my future in that moment. So this is my childhood bedroom.
Do you guys have any moments like that where something happened in your life and suddenly everything became clear, like what you needed to do? I think that's so special. I love stuff like that. When was the moment? When was the moment that everything became clear to you? I don't know if I have one moment per se, but I like thinking about that. Like, what if you had to write it down, like what would it be? It's just kind of a fun thought, you know?
Room. And it's pretty much exactly as I left it when I moved to Atlanta to go to Clark Atlanta University. I didn't have the kind of mom that like let us put posters up in our room or anything like that. Like everything had to be just like this when I left to go to school. I waited tables from the time I was 25 till I was about 37.
coming to Sweden in 2015. That's amazing, Twitty. Thanks for sharing that. That's really great. That's so cool. That's so cool. Also, shout out to her, Amy Sherald, saying that she waited tables from the time she was 25 until she was 37. I feel like that time period of 25 to 37 is everything. I feel like that's when everything, like, that's when your life happens. And then it's after that point. Or maybe I'm just saying that to, like, give myself, to relieve myself from any sort of pressure that I'm behind, right? There's no such thing as being behind. It's transformative. It is transformative. I feel like my moment was definitely like painting sets when I was in high school. Like set design was where I was like, oh, there is a path of being an artist that exists for me. I've never felt more alive than I have in my 30s, right? Your 30s are everything. 20s are a little trashy. That's how I feel about it.
I kept painting. I was trying to figure out where I fit in and what my voice would be. And in my mind, I was like, well, I don't see just paintings of Black people just being Black. Like, we're just here, we're living our lives, hanging out, just being ourselves.
Same, Twitty, same. Everything is a mess. Everything was a mess in the 20s.
Post-grad school, I run into this model who was like a 6'1" young Black woman. And, I asked her if she would come and allow me to take a picture of her. She had on a pink shirt that had white polka dots on it and a big bow tie. She's standing there with her arms dropped down to her side, her gaze meeting the viewer, and she looks a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit awkward. She, in that moment, stood there as like everything that I wanted to represent. She was fully herself in this out-of-the-box kind of way.
In this painting.
That painting was a seminal piece for me because it really solidified in my mind like what exactly I was doing. I wanted to make images that told stories like this. I started finding the models that I wanted to find, creating these different narratives and scenarios that I wanted to see exist in the world.
Hi, guys. Hi, Kayla.
How are you? Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Hi. Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you for doing this. Devin, you're a medium?
Yes.
All right, let's head down. I just gotta get a visual of what this is gonna look like. My process is that I find the painting like, we're gonna do a lot of different poses.
Cool.
So let's give it a shot and see how it goes.
Like this. And then sit down.
Yep. And then move this foot up just a couple of
I'm really bad at portraits too. I have no desire to paint portraits whatsoever. Hers are really great.
Okay, Raj, look
I
at
can
him
get
in his
behind that,
eyes.
Twitty. I would draw somebody. Yeah, I can get behind drawing someone. But like an explicit portrait.
Photography is
that's
the
tough.
beginning of the painting. It's how I begin to search for what I want in the work. I let the models feel their way through what's happening, and then each pose, I try to adjust to find exactly what I'm looking for, what the painting is going to be like, what is it going to feel like, are the colors right, are the positions right. Shooting. I rely on the organic in my work. Like, I try not to overplan. I just go in with my antennas up, looking for the right moments and waiting for that synergy to build between the models. And I leave the photo session with exactly the image that I'm going to work with. So it's almost like it's my sketchbook. That's amazing. That's good. So this is perfect because the way your noses are, everything is great. I have been looking at a lot of photographs of iconic American moments and reconsidering them and reimagining them. And so I came across the image from the V-Day kiss, and then I thought it would be wonderful if I could recreate this image, but with two men. When I think about who's going to be represented in my work, I think it speaks to the moment.
Crab hooker.
This morning, the family of a Kentucky woman shot and killed by police is demanding answers, filing a wrongful death lawsuit against 3 officers. Breonna Taylor's family claiming officers blindly fired more than 20 shots into her apartment 2 months ago. On March 13th, 3 officers entered.
Breonna Taylor was an all-American girl from an all-American family. Her mom told me that, she was a girly girl and she liked to get dressed up. And it was really heartbreaking for me to realize that it was also a love story, that her boyfriend at the time was going to propose to her within weeks of that happening. So then I wanted to include the engagement ring. And all of these things clued me into how I felt like she would possibly want to be represented on the cover of a magazine. I painted it for her family so that when they look at this image, they see the whole story. I think that we deserved a whole picture of her life. After the cover came out, the work was co-acquired by her hometown museum, which is the Speed, but then also the Smithsonian African American Museum of History and Culture. I thought that it was important for it to be in line of sight of the government in Washington, D.C.
And just stopping for a moment here to just really recognize, in contrast to our previous conversation about Justice Clarence Thomas and him smoking a cigar and that painting being in Mr. Crow's, personal resort or whatever it was, and how that is a symbol of power. How here it feels like the tables have turned a little bit, and art is functioning also in this way to give great power to a person that has not a lot of power. And I think that's wildly interesting, that art can be used as this way to symbolize people who have immense power and wealth and to solidify that power and wealth. But at the same time, with the right artist and the right context and the right support, art can also give great power to those who have no power whatsoever. And I think that that's just such an interesting way that art can operate in reality and in time.
I just started having the space to make paintings this large. It's a dream come true. It's the dream that I had when I was in high school, when I realized that artists had big studios and made huge paintings. Sometimes it feels surreal to walk in here and just see the work that I've made and see the work that I'm making. For most of my life, it was something that I was striving for.
Uplifting ethereal music, you guys.
When I look back at my life, it seems fairly orchestrated, these kind of moments that push you forward. I just feel lucky that I listened to my heart and listened to whatever my intuition said. I was like, I'm gonna do that. I was told by somebody in my life, don't listen to criticism and don't listen to praise. Just do what you do.
I love that so much. Don't listen to criticism and don't listen to praise. Just do what you do. I love that so, so, so much. Ah, Amy Sherald. So, Amy Sherald is incredible. If you have a chance to see an Amy Sherald painting in real life, you should go. You should see it because it's much different. Seeing an image of a painting is never going to compare. It's never going to compare to seeing a painting in real life, because there's something about the tactility and the texture of the painting that is just like incredible. But praise can be really. It's almost boring. So anyway, after Amy Sherald and after she was talking about Bo Bartlett, I was like, let me look up Bo Bartlett. I forgot about that dude. And I found this really beautiful short documentary about him. So we're going to watch this because Bo Bartlett is just like I could spend like an entire day looking at one Bo Bartlett painting. I'm not even kidding you. I could go like with a magnifying glass section by section by section and really just understand the movement of how he made his decision. So we're going to watch this. And also listen to how this guy speaks and how he talks. It's the most. Inflatable.
I saw a shark right here, 10 feet off the coast.
Oh, you posted the
Just
paintings in
this
Discord?
fin.
Let me see them.
Big giant fin going through the water.
I want to just take a quick peek at the Discord, you guys. Just wait. Oh, right. Actually, you know what? I can't because then it'll just show the Discord on here. Okay, I'll look at it later.
The thing was the silence of it. There's no
Oh my God,
warning.
Tebow paintings as well. Amazing, incredible.
When I was young, I used to hitchhike as a teenager all the time. And I was hitchhiking down along the Atlantic coast. And it was evening, and I saw this commotion out on the end of the pier. And so I walked out there to see what was going on. And these men were down in this boat, and they had dropped these big hooks with meat at the end of a rope. And they would row out as far as you could see. They would disappear into the evening, into the dark, and they would drop it out in the ocean. And then they would come rowing back real fast.
Oh, raid! All right, let's pause this really quick for the raid. You guys, Chris, thank you for the raid. Let me sing a song for you guys. We're watching a very special little documentary about Bo Bartlett, who is an incredible painter. My name is Mermaid, I'm glad to see you. I'm an artist in New York. I'm Mexican-American and born in SoCal. Went to art school in Portland, Oregon. This channel is a way for me to share with you some things that bring me joy. Making piñatas and even comics, but especially papel picado. For my schedule, check the panels. Discord is great when I'm not live. I like to cook and watch horror movies. Feel free to follow or subscribe. It's mostly chill vibes, but things can get weird, and that's honestly the best. I hope to see you so you can tell me which Marvel character is best at sex. Or any fictional character for that matter. Are you guys into any fictional characters that would be good at in the sack? Conquest Publishing, thank you for the follow. Thank you. So today is kind of like a special day every 2 weeks or so, or whenever I feel like it really. I do a digital art crawl and we talk about all the art that I'm interested in or has been on my mind for the last 2 weeks, and that's what we're doing today. What have I missed? Chris, and if you're not following Chris, go follow Chris immediately, please. Chris is just such a sweet, sweet guy. Wow, to have the confidence to hitchhike, right? Tell me you're a white cis male without telling me you're a white cis male. I hear it can be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So yeah, go follow. So anyway, we just started this little documentary. If you don't know anything about Bo Bartlett as a painter, that's okay. You're going to learn about him right now.
This night that I was watching it took a couple of hours of trying to reel this thing in. And when they got it up next to the dock, it was this giant great white shark. And it was this flapping, and the water was foaming all around it. And it was this great life. It was just this powerful life from underneath. I came back early the next morning, and the thing was up on the beach, and its jaws had been cut out, and flies were all over it. They were just buzzing. It was this beautiful creature. It was jaws just like its whole part of its face and head just cut out. And I just thought, like, where does that life go? Where's that life force that was fighting so much? Like, where does that go? In our rhythm of earthly life, we tire of light. We are glad when the day ends, when the play ends, and ecstasy is too much pain. We are children quickly tired, children who are up in the night and fall asleep as the rocket is fired, and the day is long for work or play. We tire of distraction or concentration. We sleep and are glad to sleep. Controlled by the rhythm of blood and the day, night and the seasons, we must extinguish the candle, put out the light, and relight it. Forever must quench, forever relight the flame. Therefore we thank thee for our little light that is dappled with shadow. We thank thee who has moved us to building, to finding, to forming at the ends of our fingers and beams of our eyes. And when we have built an altar to the invisible light, we may set thereon the little lights for which our bodily vision is made. And we thank thee that darkness reminds us of light. O light invisible, we give thee thanks for thy great glory.
How can you just not? How can you listen to that and just not be in love with in love with art? Like, how can you listen to that? I love the color palette of everyone. Right, every one of his paintings. Limited palettes make my brain go, right? Oh, limited palettes are everything. Limited palettes are everything. Also, like, how do you just think and talk like that? That's so romantic. Anyway. I'm gonna be over here I'm having feelings. I'm just gonna have my feelings. Let's keep listening though. Just know that I'm having feelings about this. And you should have some too. If you have a capacity for feelings, you should also have some. Look at his little oil paint mountains.
I had this painting in my living room. It was a painting of Wounded Knee, South Dakota. The church that had been bombed out by the government. It was like the last stand between the government
Bob.
and
Thanks
the
for coming
American
in. Thanks
Indians.
for lurking. I'm sorry your tummy hurts.
So that was when they destroyed this church that had been sitting on this site. And so I had gone out there and I'd done this painting just of the steps, and there were bullet holes pocked in it and everything. And I loved it painting. It was like very minimal, but it was my favorite painting I'd ever done. And everybody came in and saw that painting for years. Nobody ever said a single word about it. And then one day I had this professor who I really respected from University of Pennsylvania. He'd wanted to come see my work in my studio for years, and he finally came, and he came into the house. He didn't even get into my studio. He got as far as the living room. He sat on the sofa and looked at that painting for an hour. He said, "This is a masterpiece. This is the best painting I've ever seen." The very next day, a friend of mine came into the house and he stopped in the living room and saw that painting and said, "I want that." Like, it was as if the professor, by having seen it, had turned a light switch on. The painting was so happy that somebody had seen it. It was like it had, the matter in the paint, like the oil, like everything had like been, somebody had just turned it on. And it was this living thing. What we see every day is the sunlight that hits our earth and sustains us. And this sunlight is the thing that allows us to exist.
Oh, I'm sorry that bread and cheese.
So when you
murdered
paint sunlight hitting something, you're not like just painting the colors of the sun, and you're not mixing paint to try to match that color. You are actually trying to paint life itself on something. And this sunlight comes through that window right there. It hits an object and it lands on it, and that's as far as it goes. If it lands on your face, you're the thing that has stopped it. You know, a lot of artists, I think, are striving for likeness, you know, but that's just like square one. If you're going to paint something, you need to understand it thoroughly. So I'd studied at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine, cadavers and anatomy for 2 years.
Classic.
When I was drawing a human body, I would know where the muscles were and what they were doing and what purpose they served. But what I learned more than that was the difference between a living human being and a person that's laying there who no longer has life in them. The difference is that it's charged, it's turned on like a light switch. So when I paint, I try to get that life in it. I try to tell my students, you know, once I've taught them everything and I watch them paint, if the paint still just looks like paint, you know, it just doesn't do anything, it's not going anywhere, then I'll tell them, I'll say, you know, it has to transubstantiate. It has to become something other than paint. You do all the work, you get everything in the right place. You mix the paint on the palette, and you go and you put it down. You're trying to match the thing you're seeing. And it might be right, but if it doesn't have life in it, sometimes you have to do something more. I jokingly tell them, I say, you know, like you mix the color, and if you have to, you know, blow on it. And then when you put it down, it'll have the life in it.
Thanks for clarifying, Bob.
Something's got to come through you, through your mind, through your spirit, through your arm, and through the paintbrush, and into the paint itself, and then it's got to get on the canvas, and it's got to live and reside there. And that's your whole life history, your whole experience, getting into the paint. That's when people see it, and they think, oh yeah, I feel something. I don't know what I feel something. But you've done that work. But that's when you can get something that's sort of alive. And you can't put words to it, really, because there's no language to it.
You guys are cracking me up in the chat. But just look at like the really like intense way that he does everything. He's like very connected to these paintings. Look at the way that white is just so brilliant. Such a brilliant white. I mean that in a literal way, not like he's like a genius, but like a... I also like that he makes one face all the time. I'm not rich, right? Exactly. Tell me you're a rich artist without telling me you're a rich artist.
I had a friend who was sort of analytical person, and they were a collector, and they visited me. And as they were passing by on the way to the studio, they looked down. I said, "Look at that flower! The color was just so vibrant in the summer sunlight. I was having this moment of like coming to tears at the color of it. They looked at it and they said, purple. And I was like, no, look at it. Look, it's incredible. And they say, nature. They had the words for it, and then they were on their way.
You need to get the students to try something else, but you should.
So the thing is to try to all the time think about all the possibilities and what's really happening, not the words that we use for things. Because when you use words, that's when we get into trouble. We use words and we're...
Yeah, Conquest, like, if you have students who can work on that scale, that's super cool. Just support them if they fall apart. The first time I made a big painting, I had a mental breakdown. Like a painting, not like a set design or something. So, because it completely changes every single mark that you make when you work on that scale.
We block what really is. But the whole thing is so wordless. The whole thing is so powerful and overwhelming. I think it's why we do simplify it by conceptualizing everything. Because if we could let go of that a little bit and open up a little bit, then we would actually be able to, it would be overwhelming for us, but then we might actually like come to life a little bit.
Look at the color and the light, you guys. Look at the light on the wave. Look at the light on the wave. It's incredible.
In a way, it's about the ineffable. Trying to get in touch with something that's almost incomprehensible. You know, I like to say that I try to paint large because I feel like I have to paint larger than I can reach, you know. I have to try to grasp something that's larger than me.
Also, you can see here he's doing his underpainting in these natural tones in white and grayscale, and I imagine he's going to put the color on top of that. I haven't seen a painter do that, but that's very cool.
It's a physical act too, painting, where you work on this way over here, and you have to move over here and work on this way over here. There's a real reason to move left and right and look up at the sky when you're working up on the sky and down at the ground when you're working at the ground. You make your head actually move, and the viewer's head actually move. And it's part of the experience. The cycles of heaven
Really good sense of negative
in
space.
20 centuries brings us farther from home
He just left the studio mad. I love
and
that.
nearer to the dust.
Worked out. Fuck this painting. I do that often.
I mean, the fact that we exist right here, right now, is like, that's all there is, and it's everything. And time, space, matter, I mean, what is the relative way of judging any of those things? All our knowledge brings us nearer to death. I mean, it's like, what is life? You know, it's like, there's no explanation for it. And there's no explanation for what that energy, that charged matter is, that charged quality that makes this alive, that makes me alive. But nearness to death, no nearer to home. When I was a little boy and I'd be in the grass in my yard, and that feeling of being barefoot and the dew on my feet, and the sense of sunlight. Where is the life we have lost in living? That's the feeling where I know what it means to be alive, because I'm almost experiencing it for the very first time. Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? So when you have that kind of feeling, you're actually tapping into something that can get into the work and stay there and live there, and that's when your essence is getting into the work. Because you want the work to be about what it feels like to be alive.
You want the work to be about what it feels like to be alive. And Bob, your comment, I wish that I had the natural or trained talent for that sort of stuff. And I'm glad that you said that, because I think that when we look at artists like this, it can be very easy, because I like literally was doing it at the beginning of this video, to really romanticize this and to really feel like people like this are so far away from the experiences that we have, right? From the experiences that are our own. But I think it's important to acknowledge that, like, yeah, this, look, first of all, he started this video saying that he hitchhiked a lot as a teenager. The fact that he felt safe enough to do that is an incredible privilege that a lot of people don't have. You know, like I don't feel safe traveling anywhere by myself. Like, I know I could because I see really cool people like Twitty traveling on their own, you know, but I think it does, like, an artist like this being able to exist in this way and to be able to train, to look at cadavers and look at, you know, spend time with that sort of focused attention, to also spend the years and time painting. It's an immense privilege, you know, and a lot of people, you know, they don't talk about that part when you see these artist videos, right? They just talk about like how the work has developed. They talk about these sort of beautiful thoughts that they've orchestrated and they've thought about and they've written about for a long time, but there is a lot of privilege in there. And I don't want to underplay that. Like Bo Bartlett, incredible painter. Again, paintings you should see in person because they'll knock your socks off. If you're wearing socks, they'll knock your socks off. And they're amazing. But there is a lot of inherent privilege in the lives of a lot of artists. And that needs to be said. I'm 72, grew up in the Bronx in LA. The world has many journeys, but experiences are to be shared. Grew up in the Bronx in LA? That's so interesting, Conquest. That's great. So great. Yep, if only I had the energy to just, exactly, right? If only I had the time and energy to dedicate completely and fully to my art practice the way that I want to, for as long as I want to, for decades even, then of course, yes, with that time and support and that care, like any person would be able to develop a very significant and sincere and honest relationship with any sort of art practice or any sort of creative endeavor. Yeah. The day I can hook my brain to a printer and print out the images that I can see when my eyes are closed. Yes, exactly, Bob. There's a lot of potential in the creativity of almost every person. And I don't want to underplay how privilege plays a role in that. That's what artists always say. But speaking about privilege, let's change gears a little bit. So Bo Bartlett is an artist that definitely does embody a lot of privilege. Not to say he's not an incredible painter. He is, but he's privileged. We know that, you know? So let's look at another artist who maybe is not as privileged, but maybe is an artist nonetheless. Just to give ourselves a spectrum here. So let's go ahead and get started with this. Another Art 21. We are blessed to work with many creatives. That's great. That's what I'm trying to do with grad school. Leave my garbage job behind and give myself time to paint. Do it, Twitty. I support you. Do it. Daniel Lind-Ramos.
I was born here in Loíza. We have a lot of invention going on. The aesthetic of the masquerade related with the Fiestas de Santiago Apóstol, related with African heritage. I like to play with it.
Oh, thanks, Twitty.
A lot of energy going on, you know, and energy not only with Loíza, Puerto Rico, but with the Caribbean in general. There is a communication going above the language. There is something that is felt. There are so many stories related with migration in the Caribbean. Most of the objects that I try to pick up are objects related with that story. I have found a lot of shoes, for example, you know, a lot of objects related with luggage. The sea brings it. love it. The mangrove that I am doing upstairs need a lot of green, you know, and this could also represent forest, you know, beautiful. This is a great finding. It's a curved one. It is like this. It's like, what does the hurricane do, you know?
I know,
Or
we're gonna
the
get to some
movement
texture
of the
here.
wind.
Quick break just to know all of the drawing here. Like the drawing that he hung up in color and the drawings he's going through here, which are photocopies of his sketchbook. Like, I love that there's this relationship between him and his sketchbook. We haven't seen an artist tonight yet kind of talk about that or rifle through their sketchbooks, but that's kind of cool.
The thing is that
Right?
if I have an
Very
idea
intense.
based on one of my experiences, the material activates my imagination. I say, oh, I have this object and I relate with this narrative that I'm trying to organize. And I start playing with it. I incorporate that object. Oh, I have to invent an object to the idea. Putting this object related with this one. It's a very organic way of organizing. Here in Loiza, the community for me is like an extension of my studio. No. Mira, ¿no has visto más prines?
En las parcelas solar. Tengo que hablar con...
No, pero están en la carretera.
Sí, por eso.
Also, I absolutely love that relationship with the community, like that he's just an artist that lives in the community and he's like asking people where they've seen springs on the road. Like, I love that so much. I don't know what about that I love, but I just love this idea of there being like a local artist who just exists with the community and that everybody is just like, oh yeah, that's the guy where I'm gonna keep an eye out for green trash bags for that artist or like whatever it is. Like, I just think that's such a nice sense of community.
See that color? Right? Everything has been chosen to react against. Here, look at this. It's beautiful, isn't it? Look at that. It takes time. I feel it. You have to be there all the time. You have to live with the peace. I literally sleep with the notebook and with the pencil there, so I could trap the idea. It's interesting how sometimes you are sleeping and then a solution comes. And then there is a day when you go to the studio and there is an harmony. Oh, there it is. My intention with this approach is, among other things, to remember.
The first pictures now coming in from Puerto Rico. Hurricane Maria slamming into the island, and as you heard, one official saying the island is destroyed.
Tonight, Maria's direct hit, devastating Puerto Rico.
I remember listening to the roof of the house. I was by myself. And the sound of the wind, blah, 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 you know, it was really terrible. Then I opened the door. I wasn't supposed to do that, of course. And then you see the palm tree fighting. It was sublime and terrible at the same time. But it was something else. And that's what I'm trying to do with this. How could I talk about the terrible and the sublime at the same time? Bit by bit, I was gathering debris from the hurricane. The tarp comes like a sea, see here, like a sea. Water, sand, represented by the burlap. The rate of the storm, we use copper and aluminum. The thunder. So music, rhythm, sound are related with the theme too. And here there is a figure that might be pointing to
Look how good
Virgin
the drawings
Mary.
are. They're incredible.
The hurricane was called Maria, and Maria is the mother of Christ. For me to cite the iconic representation, there is a contradiction there. Virgin Mary in the context of destruction. The way that these houses are built, they are not built in order to support the strike of a hurricane. So I'm talking about the problem of housing too. People with less resources to build something strong and properly in order to live in this area in the Caribbean. Something that I remember from my childhood is that plant with those flowers. So imagine this road without this, sand and a lot of trees, but the same road. The experience of catastrophe. That's not exclusive of Puerto Ricans. There is a universality, regardless where you live in this world. People have to invent again. When you don't have electricity, you don't have water, you have to be inventive. And it's interesting because knowledge from the past came again. I remember when I was a child here in Loíza, everybody was doing something. My grandmother was a sewer. My uncle Luis was a mask maker. And my other uncle was a cabinet maker. So you could imagine that activities as a child, working with tools and woods and things, right? It was beautiful. I like to construct something that have unity, even though I am using diverse materials, but they are alive, For me, that's language. The way you arrange them to obtain unity. There, I find beauty.
And just a quick note here where he was talking about how when big things fall apart, like this knowledge from the past comes back, I think that gives me a lot of reassurance. Like there's a lot of really intense things that are happening, that are going to happen in terms of a lot of big catastrophic potentially things. And I think that sometimes there's this idea that we don't, as a human species, we don't have resources, or we don't have like the capability to survive, and I think that this idea of knowledge from the past returning is something that should hopefully offer some comfort. It offers comfort to me, because even if we don't have access to this kind of stuff, and like maybe we don't have that past knowledge directly ourselves, like people do, people have it, and I don't know, it just makes me feel like, whatever happens, we'll be able to figure it out. And I love this thing that's getting built here. On the theme of reaching back into the past.
Intenta sacar el sonido que tú quieras. Intenta. Sí. That will be nice. It's melancholic. Seems like already the Spaniards were here, killing Indians. Like a lament. The longing of something that had disappeared, Which is that land before Columbus arrived. Use your imagination,
a longing for the land before Columbus arrived.
To the instrument. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna be trying to do what our Taino Indians used to do, and that is play it with the sound that was what they used to communicate.
With my student?
You made a few of those? That's cool,
If
Mom.
you didn't learn something with Daniel...
Oh, you do? The red tool? That's awesome.
You're not in the right place. He doesn't take a no. Invent yourself. Invent.
Yeah.
Yeah. He pushes you to the limit. Okay, let's try it.
Here in Loiza, we use custom all year long. ¿Por qué esta tiene los ojos más grandes? Mira, a ver. Máscara. Victor. Activity that I have here.
Thanks
is
for
to
being here,
invite,
Conquest.
people from
Thank you
my
so much for the
community,
follow.
my
Can't wait
friends
to
and
see you
family.
again in the future.
Those neighbors
Have fun
dressed
closing your studio.
in the costume, like ancestors that came from the past to be with us, celebrating. Africa, ancestry. It's a very important ingredient of our identity. Here in Puerto Rico, of course. You know.
Es el único pueblo en Puerto Rico fundado por personas de la raza negra, pero nunca nadie me habló del continente africano. Como afrodescendiente que soy, no importa cómo la gente lo tome, pero España no puede ser mi madre patria. Mi madre patria es África.
Now we are going to invite our poets. They will be reading poetry there, and if there is somebody
I also love this
that would
poetry.
like to also, read poetry or whatever.
El real estate es su religión. Los impuestos que los pague yo. Nos vieron en el piso, nos patearon las costillas y se aprovecharon con inversiones, con influencia, con todo lo que pueden comprar con dinero. No puedes vivir ahí. Eso es un Airbnb. Lo sé porque lo mismo vi en San Croix.
You have this space where everybody who wants could come and say something, and communicate.
And again, I just want to stop here, right, for 1 second, because I want to point out what's happening here, and I think it's really a very magical thing that's happening. Like, we have this idea, especially in places like the United States, and especially in Western cultures and civilizations, that in order to feel valued, that you need to have this sort of monetary success or this professional success, and then you'll be listened to, and then you'll be valued, and you'll feel loved, and you'll feel appreciated. And I just want to point out that that's just complete garbage, because in this community here, in this example, an artist is leading an open mic for poetry, which costs nothing. I'm sure they're using the tools of this microphone, and they've created sort of a platform and or a stage. But there are really ways for people to feel valued and like their opinion matters and what they're saying is important to their communities that don't require this participation in these capitalist structures that sort of have taken over our lives, and it's such a beautiful thing to see, and it's beautiful to see families in different stages, like this little boy cuddling, a relative, and people hanging out. And it's just nice, again, to be reminded that these structures that we've been told that we need, we don't always need. We don't always need them to have community in our lives. Community can exist on its own without any participation in any of that.
Como comunidad, como gente que va a traspasar tradiciones e historias, hay que seguir cumpliendo con esa responsabilidad para sobrevivir.
Nosotros estuvimos en la escuela juntos, somos familia. Y hemos tenido un trayecto bien largo en la vida, muy buena.
My intention was to find a language, find a process, find materials that establish the link between our collective experience and somehow bring something different but authentic. We have that knowledge from the past. We want to keep it and bring it to other generations.
So good. And yeah, just on the opposite spectrum here, right? So you have Bo Bartlett, who it's pretty clear that there's been a lot of privilege in his life. Not to say that he hasn't had challenges, but there's been privilege. And then you have somebody like Daniel Lind-Ramos, who is not working with these very expensive materials, but still making these incredible works of art that are having a lasting and beautiful impact on his direct community in such a great way. And I think, again, it just shows you that art is so versatile and how it can be used. It can be used in this context of community. It can be used in this context of very internal and deep thinking and introspection. And it's just, I don't know, it's fascinating. That's what I love about it. That's what I love about art. It's so vast in its purpose, in its meaning, its use, what it looks like. There's just so many things about it, so many things to understand, and I will never get tired of it. I will never get tired of it. So anyway, that was what I've been looking at for the last couple of weeks. We'll do this again. We'll do this again in a couple weeks when I've found some more stuff. I kind of like this cadence of like just, keeping my eye out for things that are cool. Some things coming up. Oh, also I want to mention to you guys. So I'm gonna be playing GoldenEye in the next couple. These are fun, right, Aqua? I think they're fun. They're good. I'm gonna be playing GoldenEye on Switch. So I think it's like 4 players if you want to play. In the next couple of streams that I'm having, just let me know. And we can become friends on Switch. I think we have to like actually be friends though. I don't think it can. I think that's how it has to work. So we're gonna do some GoldenEye for a couple streams, and I'm really excited about it because I haven't played it since I was like 9 or 10. So I'm so curious about how bad the graphics are gonna be, how bad I'm gonna play. It should be fun. It should be super fun. Golden Cove's coming soon. I do have a sub and dono goal. I'm on Discord, Instagram, and TikTok. If you had a good time tonight and you're not following, please give me a follow. And and also last note, there's a community challenge for a birthday stream. If you guys would like to see me on my birthday, I'm thinking about it. Let me see who is streaming. Any recommendations from the audience? And we will raid somebody. And then I'm going to go lay the F down because my shoulder is killing me. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? We could go to the Calm Scribe is playing Super Mario 2. That could be fun. Oh, birthday stream. Oh, thanks, Aqua. I hope so, too. I took some Motrin, but, like, it started wearing off, like, 30 minutes ago. Ooh, some lightning outside. Okay, so, Mrs. Beekeeper. So, let's go to, you guys, do we want to do just chatting or Mario? Maybe we should raid Grimson. I haven't raided him in a while. Arguably the best Super Mario? Oh, interest. Oh, no, now I don't know where to go. Calm Scribe, Jessinaka, and Liz Vega. I don't know who Liz Vega or Jessinaka are, and so maybe that is a good choice. Let's see. Jessinaka. Okay, let's go to Jessinaka. Oh, that thunder triggered your noise gate? Wow. Liz plays harp and sings. Okay, let's go to Jess. Let's go to Jess. Let's start the I guess I should do this thing, right? Like a good streamer would. Let me see. Raid. Sub raid. Start raid. All right, we're counting down. 9, 8. Thank you guys so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Had so much fun talking to you. Have an excellent rest of your weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.